hot topic for content creators. I pitch a hot topic to you guys, and then you guys turn around, if you feel so inclined, and you create your own content on said topic. Merit versus market. Merit versus market, all right? And the subject I have for you revolves around the idea that numbers indicate merit. Now, of course, there are numerous subjects that could stem from that concept alone. But for this conversation, I want to focus specifically upon the idea that sales equals success. Okay. My angle on this subject is that I would like to dispel the notion that sales equals success, and therefore that should indicate the work itself holds merit. I think this is actually a common misconception among consumers. To tell you the truth, I believe it has become commonplace based upon the sheer audacity, and I mean that in the literal sense of the word, we'll get into it, as well as the increased popularity of what I call hype culture that has been bolstered by social media personalities. I just said a mouthful there. So let me reel it in. Let me reel it in here, and I'll lay it out piece by piece. So like rooting for a favorite sports team. People want to associate with winners. It's not about the individual appreciating a piece of work for what it's worth, but it's about feeling as though the individual is part of the team, so to speak. It's the same kind of psychological indoctrination that many fans of team-based sports are susceptible to. So sales numbers are no longer seen as an individual success attributed to the artist or the publishing house directly involved in whatever project or product that was being sold to the consumers, but actually marketed as an achievement that is thanks to the consumers themselves. Now, this element of sales equals success is nothing new in terms of marketing tactics. Making the consumer feel as though they themselves have personally achieved something from the financial success of someone else's project taps directly into that sports fan type of mentality where people are encouraged to live vicariously through the feats of others. So sales numbers are no longer meant to represent the number of units sold, but actually becomes a metaphorical scoreboard to see how your team, aka your artist or publisher, measures up against the competition. Why is competition in quotes here? Scoreboards work in sports because competition is the point. Watching two teams compete to see who wins is the purpose of sports, but that's not the purpose of art. Now, some people may say that there's competition when it comes to getting people's business, and that has to do with marketing, and I would agree. But supporting artists simply based upon sales figures is the equivalent of switching which team you root for based upon whoever is scoring the most points. I think you can see how the very notion of artists being in competition with one another is about as absurd as a sports fan who changes out jerseys on the fly based upon performance alone. However, this does not stop some people from tapping into that sports fan mentality of wanting to be associated with the winners. because no one wants to be associated with a loser. Am I right? And how do we know if an artist is a winner or a loser? Sales, baby, because the numbers don't lie. Or do they? What if I told you that sales has less to do with measuring the success of any particular product on the market than it does with measuring the amount of money spent on a product or the amount of units purchased? Very important language here. Sales is just a reflection of the amount of money spent and the amount of units purchased. The whole concept of sales equals success begins to fall apart as soon as the consumer realizes that sales is just a reflection of the amount of money spent on a product and or the number of units purchased, but may also reflect the number of times a product was purchased, which does not, I repeat, does not accurately reflect the amount of people who appreciate said product. So this is why I am wary of any so-called artist that uses this kind of like sports team method of marketing their work as if I have some personal fucking investment as to whether or not their product wins. At least sports fans may actually have bets riding on how many points their team scores. But what the fuck does winning mean when we're talking about buying books, movies, and other works of fiction? Look, I'm willing to accept that there's going to be fans of certain artists that will buy whatever the individual puts out onto the market, just like there are sports fans who will support their team no matter how many losses that team accumulates over their career. But in this instance, I'm not actually referring to sales numbers, but the quality of the work itself based on the consumer experience. The idea that sales equals success is just flawed thinking because that allows shady businessmen who may have a silent support group of wealthy connections backing them to utilize an us versus them marketing strategy to manipulate consumers into adopting a sports fan kind of mentality to garner their success, let's just say. When sales equals success, the shady businessman wants to hear you, the consumer, chanting, "We will win, we will win." Because at the end of the day, winning in this context involves you opening your wallet, and it turns their product into a personal trophy that symbolizes your effort to make their work a financial success. But is that success thanks to the merit of their work or the effectiveness of their marketing strategy? What do you think? Are you a consumer who's manipulated by sales numbers? Are you somebody who only reads bestsellers? Have you adopted a sports fan psychology when it comes to which piece of fiction you're willing to consume? Are you someone who has to vet each artist and decipher which team they represent in order for you to appreciate a piece of work? Let me know in the comments down below. And be honest. Really think about it. This is a subject that is very intriguing to me because for me, it's like watching a social experiment unfold right before my eyes. I have to admit, I'm baffled sometimes. I can't help but wonder what the hell is going through some people's minds. I think we're living in a day and age where people will buy just about anything, as long as it has the right marketing and appears to be successful. I mean, look at Belle Delphine. That chick was selling bottled bath water, for Christ's sake. Some unholy water, if you will. In fact, you could say that the agua was tainted.